Hello everyone. From today onwards, I'm thinking that I will be starting a series in which I will be showing basically guiding you guys on different projects, how to solve them. Basically in UiPath, how will we create a project and or automate end to end any kind of process, and that will be like too much informative. And I will try to use all the best practices I can so that anyone can learn by doing, just like it's like the best practice to do things. Instead of going to theory, we are going to learn by making the bots, and it will be complete walkthrough from scratch. So this is the first problem statement that I have come up with. So it's a like kind of financial problem in which, like, if we read first, it's like there is one input Excel file which contains details of fees deposited by students. Following points are worth noticing about the input file. There can be multiple rows of one student. Okay, and let's do one more thing. I will open a notepad, so we will keep a note of what the you client wants us. Like, assume there's a proper walkthrough of how a project can be made in a real life scenario, and let's assume this is what the client has provided to us, that there can be multiple rows of one student. Okay, under the fee head column, the bifurcation of the amount deposited by the students in different fee types is given as tuition fee, hostel fee, admission fee, alumni fee, etc. Etc. means they can be any kind of number of fees could be there. Okay, so we will have got 2 points. First, there can be multiple students. Okay, so we have to check that there are two multiple students. Then our tuition fees is divided into multiple fee headers. So I will show you the input file also. Like over here, this is the input file. So like, as said, there can be multiple students, so we have got like over here one name. Then it could be possible, like, yeah, we can see in 8th and ninth we have got same roll number and same name, so means like these details are same, so these are the same students data with different fee head in like hostel fee, tuition fee, alumni fee. Okay, so these were the points given in a first and second. The different fee types are separated by two vertical bars. Let's see. Okay, yeah, the like hostel fee and tuition fee both are separated by two vertical bars. Then this is the information that was provided to us. Now what the client wants from us: the columns marked in red input Excel file not required in the output Excel file. Okay, so these two columns are not required. Cool. The columns marked in yellow in the Excel will go as such in the output Excel file. So yellow columns are these ones. Like for students, this is, I guess, the basic data of a student that needs to be same. Then there may be one or more row for a student in the input file. However, in the output file there should be only one row for one student. Okay, which is why the input file is, it's highlighted that there can be multiple rows one for one student. So basically this line means that if we get two Aman Anand in the output file, there would be only one. The fee head column in the input Excel file has to be dealt with very carefully, and different columns are to be created in the output Excel file for different fee types in the fee head column in the input Excel file. So basically, this point relates that our complete project is based on this particular column fee head. This is the core part of our problem statement. Let's see what are the rest points. The fee type which starts with hostel fee in the input file has to be considered hostel fee. Fee type with bus fee in the input file has to be considered bus fee. Okay, so basically if we go through the first to 6 points, they are just saying that the fee types which are defined like hostel fee SAM1, so this comes under hostel fee column. Tuition fee BBA SAM1, whatever comes later on doesn't matter. What matters is that first keyword, like tuition fee, means it is a kind of tuition fee, it should come over there. And in the output column also, if I show you something, yeah, so here we have a bus fee column, hostel fee column, tuition fee column. So it's like, if in the input the fee has hostel fee written in the starting, then it the amount should come in the hostel fee column. If it's TV deposit written, then it should come in the TV deposit column. Okay, then we have the amount against each of these fee types for every student has to be totaled and mentioned in the respective column in the output Excel file. Okay, So this point means, like, if we go for Aman Anand, like here, we have got two students which are coming up, like, so basically, I mean, one student with two entries. And it could also be possible that the entries might not be just after one another. It could be like Aman Anand is once on 8, then it's again on 12. So we have to take care of that as well. Now what the problem statement asks, that if, like, whatever, like over here, two fees if are same, like probably we can think that there could be an hostel fee, one more in the above column, and in one in below column as well. So we should have a merge of both the values. Like suppose if over here we have got another value called, I will just write it exactly. Wait, let's copy this. And since one more information is there, that this data is not created by a human. This look Just look at the data. We see, we can confirm that something like this, so structurized proper, can only be created by a software. So we can assume while creating a project that this data format will always be same. And as I was saying, over here the task is that if hostel fee SAM is 75,000 on first row, and again the student's name is repeating, and the hostel fee is 75,000 over here. So in the output file, what will come? The sum of 75,000 plus 75,000. Okay. I hope everyone understands the problem. We have got, I guess, two more points. Even if there are multiple rows in the input Excel file for a student like Aman Anand, amount against each of these fee types should be total in only one row in the output Excel file. Okay, we understand. There should be one extra column in the output Excel file which totals the fee deposit in different fee types as shown in the grade column in the example output file. Let's see. We will go to output file, and I guess there is some kind of typo. We will just correct it. Okay, so what we has done, that after multiple column headers like bus fee, hostel fee, tuition fee, a grand total column is also to be created by us, in which the sum of these values will come up like 15,000 plus 47,500 equals 62,500. Okay, we have understood the problem. How, and now we will see how our approach should be. One thing to be taken care of: never, never, ever just start building the bot before, like, because sometime it happens that people thinks that it's easy to develop the workflows. Yes, it is very easy. We can just drag and drop things, and if our logical way of thinking is correct, we can create the bots. But while working on some POCs or a real project, the idea is to first create a map, make a workflow, and like think what the input would be, how our bot supposed to react, what kind of data structures we might need. Like, if we think of about this, let's see. Over here we might need a data table. Like, we need so many columns need to be stored from this data table itself. And then let's think one more thing. Like over here right now we have got hostel fee, tuition fee, admission fee, other fee, utility fee, and alumni fee. Six columns. But the problem statement says that there can be any number of columns. Like, I guess I read it somewhere over here. Yeah. And a sector keyword is used. So that means we can say it's not only six columns. Like in the output file, we are not sure if there would be only these six columns. It could be seven, eight, nine, 10. What knows? Who knows? So our bot should be so much dynamic that it is able to handle all this stuff. Now, if I want to store this data, like I want to store all the hostel fees sum of a particular student. Let's go again with the example of Aman Anand. I want to store the hostel fee value of 75,000 and another hostel fee of 75,000. I can use a variable. In variables, we can store the value. But if you think carefully, there will be many number of columns. So if I'm using variables, it will lead to so many variables. Then second option can be I can use an array. Like, I will, what we can do, we can store values based on some indexing. Like zero index is for hostel fee, one index is for utility fee, second index is for admission fee. But again, this is not effective because that might not be proper. Indexing can be like in dictionaries, if I call it, talk about in Python, not dictionary, basically in a list. I don't think that would be too much effective. What I'm thinking to do over here is to use a dictionary. Using dictionary, the idea would be that the structure would be same. We, even after 3 months, 5 months, year, or 2000 years later, even if we go back to our bot, we know that what is the position of our value. We'll get it easily. We won't have to like see anywhere that what was the index of the hostel fee column. We know if I just, there is some key which is in mapping with map to some value, and that key we can, what we can set as the first keyword of the value, like hostel fee. Key can be hostel. Tuition fee, the key can be a tuition, that is unique, and we can merge the values. So another thing to be point, we will, in our project we will use a dictionary. I will be using keys as string and values as objects, because the value, using object we can convert that into many different kind of data types, and mostly we will be using here, I guess, double, as the values are in decimals, and it's also like a good practice to use double or decimal when working with money amount related values. Okay, next. Since it is a project for some kind of real case, I would really suggest to use RE framework. Why? Because all the different kinds of exception handlings are already taken care in the RE framework by UiPath, and it supports like different, all kind of various best practices are already implemented. Okay, then what we have got to think, yeah, what what do you think? What if right now the data table is like this, but suppose there are more columns to be added. Suppose the user asks after developing the project that I want not only these six, I want 10 more columns over here. If I am using this output data table directly, like using the build data table activity, if I create a data table like this, then it won't be dynamic. Always, if a client says add two more columns, I will have to go to my board, open the open data table and edit it. That's not a good way. So what we are gonna, so we have to come up with something for that also. Okay, so our data table output should be dynamic. Cool, we will make that. We'll make sure that any user who is not able to, who doesn't know what is UiPath, how RPA works, he will be able to dynamically enter the data. That's how our bot should be, and that's how we will create our bot. Next, another thing that we might need to see, let's check it out. This data seems proper. Okay, from over here. Okay, how, like if the data is repeating, how we are going to check that this particular student's data is same? Like there can be two Aman Anand or three Aman Anand, but it might be possible that out of those two Aman Anand are same, but one is different, right? So we need a unique data. Students names can be of course different. So what we are going to do, we will follow this roll number, UN roll number. Roll numbers are like, personally, like my roll number is 173. It's common. No one other than me has this particular roll number in my complete university. So we can use this roll number to verify that this student is same, and if the roll numbers are different, then students are different. So we have got a unique attribute for us. Unique attribute is UN roll number. Okay. In general, one more point before starting. In most of the POCs or use cases, if this file would have been created by a human, one thing to notice, that we cannot go about using indexing or column head names to access the data. Remember that. Because in real life, always remember that the client could be there, or there could be one person at least who will try to fail. No, this bot will not work in real life. this can create some problem. How will you handle that? So one thing we have to make sure that no, we can answer such questions. We, like in the next project, if we get something like that where a file is created by human, we will always assume that these columns need to be dynamic. We have to do something that our bot can understand. Like, okay, I want to work on student's name for column. I will find where in the Excel that column is. It's in fifth column, it's in seventh column. Okay, I found it's in a seventh column, so I will get the data from the seventh column. If is there any empty row? Yeah, by empty row we can also see that it could be possibility that in future, not sure, but the software which is being used by the client to create this file might get some problem, might it add some empty rows, though it has very less chance, like 2 to 3%, but we can consider that. So we will see that if a student's data is generated, a receipt number or receipt date or his university roll number, something would be there, right? So we can assume that one more thing, if any roll number is empty, or we don't have any kind of roll number for with us, then we can assume to neglect that date complete row. Assume neglect the row or its empty row. Okay, cool. So this is the basic data that we might need. Now let's go and have a walkthrough over our UiPath RE framework, how we are going to do all these projects. Today in this first video, like the main aim was to decide what are the factors, what is the input and output of the data, and how our approach will be, what we will be using. So before moving further, I will just create the project, set up the files, and we will see we'll start the actual project development of the project in the second video. Let's start first, create the basics setup for how the bot will work. I will go open UiPath, click on Robotic Enterprise Framework. Let me call it Finance Bot. Okay, I cannot use that, or Project One. Okay, so over here I will have to write a good description so that in future I might be able to understand what this project does. The idea is to fetch the unique amount values from the fee head and generate an output file with unique data for each student. And it should be, I don't think, unique, each amount value. Okay, I will create it in VB and create. I am using 2020.10, that is the latest version of Community Edition. And I would suggest everyone, like if you are using the old UiPath systems, you should update your softwares. Now, this is the basic workflow. Before going further, like I said, we need to customize this for our needs. In this project we are not going to use orchestrator, so we will have to edit this bot in respect to that. Now let's see from starting. I have opened the initialization state. In this, config is nothing. So when config, what is config? Config is the basic dictionary variable that we will be using in our complete workflow for all kinds of settings. It could be the file name, file path, any kind of variable or anything. That's the very most useful, one of the most useful variables, dictionary variable. Now let's open the init all settings. The first one, over here we are initializing the config file, then we are reading the sheets name is parsed as parameter. If you can see over here, the by default sheets name are passed as settings constant as a parameter. And I will also show for the beginners that the config file, over here is generated by RE framework itself with a particular format like settings, constants, and assets. First, let's go with the workflow. Then I will also explain you how why these three sheets are here and how are they distributed. So in the init all settings, if we come back, first we are looping for each sheet like the constants and settings, reading the whole data table. Then we are looping over the data table, and if the string is not null, that there is some kind of data in the value, then we are just assigning that value, that object value, to our dictionary. Okay, we are not assigning the string but the object. Then try initializing the assets. Assets basically are some data, just like you can think of any particular email ID we might need to send the data to, or some kind of useful information which is like unique. Okay, that we can store in our assets in the orchestrator. Okay, we there are basically no need of assets would be there, but again there is not even any need to remove this particular activity. It if our assets going to be empty and it won't create any issues. In the exception we have log message of loading assets if any kind of issue comes. Okay, we are cool with this. Now we have got one more exception, no assets. Okay, so in the init all settings we have nothing to worry about. Then we go for if in orchestrator queue name is specified. So we are not going to use orchestrator, so we can simply remove this. Then we have got invoke kill all process. Yeah, this will be required, and there is an add log fields. Okay, this is like a comment for us. And then we have the init all applications. Again, let's open it. I suppose it should be empty. Yeah, so now what we need to do, we have set up our one state. Okay, now after this it will lead to get transaction data. Before going to that, let me show you one more thing, that this RE framework is based to work with queue items. So I need to convert it to work with the Excel data. So what we can do over here, we will change every queue item to Excel data table. Just click on variable data and select system.data.data table. Okay, and transaction item. Wait. Transaction item is what? Our data row. So it should be system.data.data row. Transaction item is a particular row on which we want to perform our operations. Okay, now since we have changed one variable, it has led to multiple problems in our workflow. Okay, one or more childs have validation errors or warnings. Don't worry, we will just solve each of them and convert them to work with the workflow. Let's go over here. So for this, over here it says some error is there. For this, nothing to do, just remove this, click anywhere, and again set it to nothing, and error will be gone. Okay, it's like earlier nothing was assigned to a queue item, now nothing is assigned to a data row. Then we have got some error in this invoke get transaction activity. Okay, so I will open this workflow. So get transaction data, this particular state is used to get some get a transaction item, or you can think of it as a row from a queue present in the orchestrator. But we are using Excel on the local system, so we have to convert it in such a way that it works with that. Now first, let's go to the variables panel. Let's see where are the values. Okay, it's using arguments only. Cool. So in the arguments, we have another queue item over here, out transaction item. So I will just convert it to data row. Okay, I guess what we have, get transaction item. Okay, so this activity, if you can see over here, is calling a queue name in config orchestrator queue name to string, and creating an out transaction item for this, but we won't need this activity. Okay, so I'm just removing this, and with this our error is gone. Okay, now instead of this, what we might need an out transaction. Let's see, we will do that later. So basically, like earlier, through that we were getting an our data row, particular data row. So now what we will do instead, over here, I will just use an if activity. If the in transaction number is less than or equal to uh, data, I guess there must be something for data table. Okay, so I need a data table. Basically we have IO transaction data. Okay, so IO transaction data dot rows dot count. This means in transaction number refers to the row number we are processing. Okay, so it will start from 0, and it should be less than the total number of rows. So like if in this input file data 0, at 0 we have got this row, and we are when we are calculating the count, total number of count, so it would be 11. Okay, so r would be 0 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10. So it's like it will work till 0 to 10. Okay, so for that I will just remove this equals to. Okay, so in transaction number should always be less than the total count. Now if I get this, if the transaction number is less than that, then assign out transaction item to IO transaction data dot rows, and over here will come in transaction number. So basically what this means is, from the data table fetch a particular row whose index is this. Okay, this is just like indexing in an array. If the in transaction number is 0, it will fetch me the 0th row. If the transaction in transaction number is 5, it will fetch me the 4th row. Okay, and while doing this, like always remember, while working on any project, do change the name of every activity and get write some annotation over there, so that we would be able to understand even after, like again that same thing, after months or years we would be able to know what we are doing over there. If transactions are left to be processed, and over here get the transaction item. Okay, so we are done with this, and I will just save it. Now let's see, I will click on import arguments. Over here we have got data row out transaction item. I will just write it transaction item, and let's see, scroll down. Okay, cool. So one error is removed, but still over here it says one or more children has some error. So let's open the exception again. Over here we just need to remove nothing, click anywhere, again click, and select nothing. Errors are gone. Okay, let's scroll down more. Over here we have finally is empty. Then we are moving to process transaction. Okay, I will save this and move to process transaction. We have got multiple errors over here again. Cool. Let's open the workflow. We will start from the beginning. Over here we have no activities, but in the arguments, if we see, there is a transaction item with the queue item argument type. It should be data row. Okay, let's save it. Go to main, import arguments, and over here write just transaction item. Exception gone. Now still we have got some error. So let's check. We have got business exception. It's just a variable, no issue, no issue. In the finally we have got the error. This is where we need to do some changes. Okay, let's open the set transaction status also. So in this workflow, what happens when we are working with orchestrator with queues, we need to update the status of the item we are working on. If the item processes successfully, we need to set the transaction item status success. But I am not going to use queue, so there is no need. So what I will do, I will just disable it. Okay. Again, business exception, no need, disable it. System exception. Now, this system exception is also like different, a little bit different. We'll need, I will show you 1 minute. Where was that? Set transaction status and over here. Yeah. These two were to update the data from the queue item. That's why we have just commented out them. And let's see the arguments of this. In transaction item is queue item over here. Set it to system.data.data row. And instead of this nothing, we will just write nothing. Okay. And again, we have got few more changes. So in this queue retry, there is some, let's see what it means that in the transaction item, if the transaction item is not nothing and also get it's a queue item, then set it to queue retry. Okay, but and then we have got queue retry condition, set transaction status and IO retry number dot retry number. Okay, and then we have got some transaction log fields, then a retry mechanism. Wow, we have to work a lot on this. Okay, so see, first assign the queue retry. We are not using queues, no need. If transaction item is a queue item, then system exception will occur. This one will set the status. Okay, we don't need, but we would need, I guess, this retry number. For now, I will just scroll it up and remove this. Add transaction log fields. Mm, let's check. Okay, log field transaction status, transaction number in transaction. Okay, so this is it will add it to the log message. Okay, let it be there. Then we have got a retry mechanism, and in this we have got retry number is not a member of system or data or data row. Yeah, so IO retry number is how many times we have retried the values. By data row, we cannot get that. Delete. Now, let me open the retry current mechanism. So basically over here, if any retry number is there, like convert int max retry number greater than 0. Max retry numbers are what we set in our config file. Okay, then what it checks, if the IO retry number is greater than equal to convert. So basically what you can see over here, the IO retry number. Retry number specifies that how many times we have repeated the value. So it's basically like I will just assign an activity, set it to IO retry number plus 1. Okay, increment the retry number value, and its retry number value in initial would be 0. So what I have to do, I will just go over here, IO retry number, default value will always be 0. Okay, that we will set outside. And again, retry current mechanism, maximum retries reached, set the retry number to 0, and the transaction number increments. What this means, if a particular row is got some problem, then this retry mechanism will run. It will again, like if the maximum retries are not reached, it will enter a log message that I am retrying this particular transaction item. Then it says use orchestrators retry. Okay, we have to do changes over here also. uh, let's see, this is a decision flow in queue retry. Okay, so it is basically using the a true or false condition. Okay, like if we see over here, this is a boolean. Okay, so instead of in queue retry, we might need another variable. Let's see in the set transaction status. Do remember guys, this is the like one of the important workflows. Like retry mechanism is something we need to set properly. Okay, like over here we have got a queue retry variable. Let's see from where it is set. Okay, I guess it was set with the queue option. Okay. So what we can do, we can just set it as true. Okay, so that way what will happen, increment the transaction number, increment the retry counter. Cool. So if there is some use orchestrators retry, then it will go to yes by true, and no, it will go to retry number. Okay, though there won't be much any need of this. Okay, now let's go back to our workflow where we have removed the transaction log file. In this take screenshot, nothing to no, it's something not really required. All this is what going to work perfectly fine using the exception screenshots path. It will save our data. This take screenshot XAML works when there is some kind of error. This particular error came up with my bot. Then the bot itself will take a screenshot and save in the exception screenshots folder. I know this video is going to be a little big and there will be no development we are doing, but do remember that this is the core part, understanding the RE framework. Okay, then just close all applications, all good. Now I will just click on import arguments and let's see if there is something empty or left. Okay, click on OK. Invoke set transaction is fine, exception is fine. Okay, let's go to main. See, all our errors have gone. Now our project is ready to work with the data table activities. Let's just close this and close this. Okay, now as soon as we as long as we have some values, this project will work, and we will just I'm just ending this video, first video of the series, with just entering the details over here. The process title is finance bot project 1. Filter and merge the students data in multiple fee headers, and I will write just my name, Piyush Agarwal. One can contact me on my LinkedIn, that is cool. Okay guys, so see you in the next video. Do watch it. We will start building this workflow from scratch. You will get to know what kind of errors we might face, how to face those issues. The journey would be the most important thing than learning. Okay, let's see you guys in the next video. Bye, take care.